this episode I'm going to be talking about one of the most prominent biohacking books of this year, Ben Greenfield's Boundless. I'll be looking at the pros and cons of this absolutely massive book. To start off with, many of you probably know Ben Greenfield. He's a hugely popular writer, blogger, podcaster, Instagram influencer, personal trainer, who's probably one of the most well-renowned people in the biohacking sphere. He released this book this year. I think it's like the 15th book he's published, and this is by far his biggest book. Now, this is a huge book. For those of you who are starting off your journey to health and wellness, I would not recommend this. I would recommend something a bit smaller. Start off with the Dave Asprey Bulletproof Diet book and work your way up, because this is a lot of information to take in at once. It's available on Amazon for £35. It's currently on sale. It usually is about £55. Or alternatively, I recommend buying the Audible version, because Audible, you can get 1 free credit for a free trial during your trial, or you can buy free credits for £18, making this book come to about £6. And to be honest with you, I think it's better to listen to this audiobook first time round to see if you like the information being given, and then commit to buying the book head on, because it's altogether a much cheaper way of doing it. And so I'm going to look into the advantages and disadvantages of the book. I found a lot of weaknesses in some of his writing, but overall, I think it's very refreshing that we have one concise biohacking book that tries to do everything at once. I think for a matter of convenience, it's really good. In terms of a gift idea, I've already bought it as a gift for several of my friends who are into health and wellness. It's just a good thing to give to someone who's also read a few biohacking books and now wants to further commit to get their health to the next level. This book is fantastic for that. For those who are massively into health and wellness, it's already a very, very good book to buy, because you're going to learn something from this. There's going to be so much information in there that you're going to learn something unique about, something you're passionate about, in my opinion. For me, as someone who's read several of these sort of books, I found some new information here that I'll definitely be applying in my journey towards better health. And it provides a great overall blueprint for those who are new to the biohacking sphere, who really want to know what it's all about beyond food, beyond just diet, carnivore, keto, looking into air quality, EMF, blue light exposure. This is a fantastic book for that. It also provides a really good, interesting analysis about the carnivore, keto and vegan debates, analysing the pros and cons between each of them. And I think it was about time that there was a book that really did that in depth, and this is that book. Honestly, there's a lot of in-depth analysis here, some of it good, some of it bad, but overall, generally a really good book for those who are big in their health. Now I'm going to be looking a bit more into the cons of this book. As I said before, it's fantastic, especially for those who like to look beyond food and nutrition, so focusing on light, mold, mycotoxins, air, water, filtration systems you can have in the house, ways to improve your air quality, ways to prevent EMF exposure. Those things I think are having more and more of an impact on our health, so it's great that that's going into that. But I did feel that on some issues, for example on parasitic treatments, he's very, very vague in his explanations as to what a good parasite cleanse is, and I think that his information in general was a bit wrong. I think he should have done a recommendation for microbe formulas, because I think having analysed the parasite biohacking sphere, that they've been by far the best brand, and he didn't mention them once. He never mentioned Mimosa pudica, which has been great for me in terms of eradication of parasites. In general, there's always a risk of, when you make a book that's about everything, then you're going to miss out on vital bits of information, or sometimes a few of the chapters are a bit too vague and don't really have those golden gems, and I felt that the chapter on parasite cleanses was one of those chapters. A few of the products that he's also recommended to me have also caused more harm than good. The Restore product being the big example of this. I took Restore on the recommendation of Ben Greenfield, and it was awful. It ruined my sleep, caused massive issues, and I just wish he would have offered a bit more of a balance about the risks associated to some of the supplements that he recommended. When they're clearly, if you look at Amazon.com reviews for Restore supplement, there were a lot of other people that had issues similar to what I faced. I wish he'd given us more of a warning before recommending them in the book. Some of the products also had a host of negative reviews. The molecule air, he recommends that in the air filtration chapter about environment, and I think that it was just wrong to recommend that. He was just wrong to recommend that because there are so many negative reviews out there, so many studies done on the molecule that claim that it's a product that doesn't do what it says, and yet he's gone out and he's recommended that here. Similarly, he did that in the EMF chapter where he talks about the Blue Shield, and if you actually go in depth on the website about the Blue Shield products, you'll notice that there's actually no human studies done on Blue Shield and its protection from EMF radiation. The only studies done on that website are done on chickens, not human beings. So again, he's offered another product there without giving us a balanced review on the risk associated with the product or the inaccuracies of that product itself. So I wish he would spend more time going in depth on that than in depth on other situations where he talks about, taking gas station dick pills to enhance, his sex life. I wish he'd done less of that and more on focusing on the pros and cons of certain products he's recommended. Again, he seems to have a sort of double standard where he talks about cannabinol, where he just vaguely mentions it as a way of enhancing sleep quality, when we all know that the cannabinol industry is very, very corrupt. 95% of cannabinol comes from China, which means that it's loaded with heavy metals, toxins, molds, and everything out, and all those other contaminants. So while he's very strict on heavy metals when it comes to seafood and mold when it comes to things like talking about cheeses, he doesn't really mention it when he talks about a lot of the supplements that he recommends are actually vulnerable to molds and heavy metals. So in the subject, when he talks about cannabinol, he could recommend some American brands that test for heavy metals and molds, like Pharmacy Bliss, Gron, Kiscanu, which have really, really good reviews, and mentioned them in the product recommendation, so that he's keeping a line of consistency where he's always offering the best product. And I don't think he's doing that all the time. Similarly, when he talks about medicinal mushrooms like lion's mane, again, they're very susceptible to heavy metals. Just recommending lion's mane on its own, it could cause more problems because, again, mushrooms are very vulnerable to molds, heavy metals, and toxicants, and a lot of them come from China, which adds a lot of additional problems. So he could have name-dropped a brand like Life Cycle in that situation. So I don't feel that he's really offering the best of the best, recommending the best of the best in supplements in this book. Again, looking at some of the other negatives, just the sheer size of the book in itself is just very, very overwhelming for someone starting out. It's not very practical. You can't take someone to train, for example, and read it. It's more like, I don't know if a biohacking book should ever be a sort of coffee table book. It's arranged like a picture book, and I don't think that books like this should be made like that, but that's just my personal preference. I would have liked it if he'd actually just condensed it into 4 or 5 separate books and released them over time, like, for example, what Dave Asprey did with the Bulletproof Diet book series. He gradually, upped the complexities of his books. He started with a Better Baby book, which was a very small book, then it got bigger and bigger, a little bit more complex, but he kept the logic quite simplified, and I really admired that about Dave Asprey book series, because it never felt too overwhelming. Here we have a host of hundreds of biohacks, a bit of self-help here, a bit of testosterone boost there, all this sort of stuff, and it can be incredibly overwhelming. If you read this all at once, you're going to be like, well, now I have to go out and buy 70, 80 supplements. And I wish for people on more of a budget, I'm not sure if it's that practical a book, because he's recommending so many things to do. A lot of them are very, very expensive. So the average Joe who might not be able to afford all these biohacks, I wish that he, at the end of the chapters, probably broke down the biohacks sort of price, so to give people who are on more of a budget the opportunity to buy some cheaper products that might, that can still provide positive health benefits. And I wish he sort of did spend more of the time going into biohacks on a budget and splitting up those expensive to cheap ones. The expensive ones from the cheap ones. There's also a bit of inconsistent information. For example, on page 84, when Ben tells us to take curcumin for its anti-inflammatory effects. We are given 2 effective doses, one at 1,000 milligrams on page 534, but then on page 102, he says that the dose can be effective up to 8 grams a day. So he's giving us 1,000 to 8,000 milligrams, which is quite a variance. So this book is chock full of sort of those sort of inaccuracies, which can be quite annoying for a reader to follow. I think that is about it in terms of the negatives. But yeah, the accuracy of the information throughout the book is not that consistent. But overall, I think it's a fantastic book for anyone who's curious about biohacking or wants to take their biohacking to the next level. I think I'd recommend buying the audiobook version first because it's just a lot cheaper, and seeing if you like the gist of what he's talking about. It is very overwhelming, so I recommend doing one chapter every other day just to get into it. It's not something that you can sort of listen to all at once. You're just going to feel massively overwhelmed. Overall, I think it's a good book. I just wish that there was a bit more quality control in terms of the supplements he was recommending, and the dosage as well could have been a bit better. But overall, fantastic and really worth buying. I'll leave the Amazon link in my blog post, which is in the YouTube show notes below. Thanks for watching.